Well, it's interesting that I'm down here in the San Diego area for a bit, and driving around, I'm starting to notice home price or home, uh, you know, the for sale, or excuse me, the homes for sale are starting to have this unusual, which we have not seen in a long, long time, sticker on it. It says price reduced. And is this a is this a function of the fact that the rates are as high as they are, and people are kind of now starting to, the supply and demand, and people thinking they're just going to wait it out? What is that all about? And I mean, is that one of those things that we're going to start seeing prices go down on homes to try to offset these higher interest rates?
Well, I think there's going to be some of that, but I would caution our viewers to not bet on that occurring to a great extent. No question that now, as I've been saying for a while now that, hey, don't listen to CNBC. Mortgages are not in the sevens. We can still do loans in the sixes. Even now, I have to admit, for us, we're pretty much hitting 7 on conforming conventional loans. And as a consequence, that is, I think, having some effect on home prices in some markets. But, some of the other data that came out today, now this is national data, but I think it underscores the overall environment, which is why I think our viewers should not bet on too much in the way of home price reductions. And that is, existing home sales came out today, about a little over 4 million. That was lower than expected. And it's historically a pretty low number compared to past years. The inventory of homes for sale is still at about a 3.3 month supply. It needs to get to 6 to be considered imbalance as far as the market goes. And then, in addition to that, between the fact that we've got mortgage rates are higher, we still have limited inventory. The other number that came out today that was released is the median home price. Again, this is a national number. But the median home price in the U.S. in the month of August increased, not decreased, increased 3.9%. So,
wow.
Now, though you may have driven around and seeing some price reduction signs on some of these listings, that could be real-time, real data that will start to show up in these statistics in the coming months, September, October, November. But when you consider that short supply, that is sort of a governing factor that even with higher rates, we're not seeing that big decrease in home values, simply because we continue to have too many buyers and not enough sellers. We still have a locked up market because there's too many homeowners who don't want to sell because they don't want to give up that low, first rate mortgage that they have now. So I think to the extent we're seeing some price reductions, it's a little bit more spotty. It's kind of market driven, particular individual isolated markets. But the overall trend is still home prices are remaining surprisingly firm despite these rate levels.
Well, for those people who are, I think as I was looking at something this morning that kind of really tied into this, I saw where there was somebody back in the desert. He sends me stuff almost every day about listings. And I did notice a couple on there. One was like $20,000 reduction. The other was 36. But I also noticed those particular homes' days on the market were longer. Do you think that's probably, the home seller was maybe betting on the farm as far as, hey, here's our highest possible price. And when they feel like it's not moving, that's when the prices came down, because they were kind of getting a little psychologically panicking, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sell my house.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description of, I think, the sort of the psychology of listing your home for sale. I talk to a lot of realtors. Of course, I do business with a lot of realtors, and it's pretty interesting that even in this current environment, when an agent gets a listing, it's quite often a case where there may be a little bit of a disagreement with the homeowner about what price to sell the home at. And there's still a lot of homeowners out there that, even though now they've decided to go ahead and sell, so you wonder what that's all about. Are they a homeowner with a 2.5% mortgage that's decided to bite the bullet and sell anyway because they need a bigger home or nicer home, or they need to move? We don't know. But the point is that seller oftentimes will still put that home on the market, listed at a price that maybe were already elevated, but maybe is elevated even further, and they're betting on the fact that there's low inventory, there's lots of buyer demand. Maybe I'm going to get lucky and get a premium price. See, I think that's sort of what we were seeing before. I mean, homes were flying off the MLS and selling in a week and selling for higher than list. There's not a lot of that going on. Again, that's more market specific. I've mentioned before, South Orange County. If you're a first time home buyer buying a condo for $600,000 to $800,000, you probably are going to see multiple offers and may go over list. But in other markets, that's not happening. So, the point of all that is that, and see, that's an example too of where the homeowner and their agent, I think, should be more strategic about when they list their home, understanding the environment, understanding that mortgage rates are an obstacle to selling. And if you're thinking about trying to get a premium price on your listing, think about doing that in a different way. Maybe set it at a premium price, but immediately offer right from the get-go some financial help to the buyer in terms of a credit from that seller for closing costs, for more importantly, a buy down, a temporary 2-1, 3-1 buy down, so that homeowner can get a first year rate at maybe 4%, well now 4%, or first year rate maybe at 5%, and get a break on those mortgage payments and give them time to get into home ownership and then look to refi later. So I think that is a better strategy, but we still see too much focus on let's just adjust the price up and down and not pull in the financing piece and use that as a way through the price to benefit the buyer and help spur that sale to a closing.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I think that is so important. You've mentioned in the past about using, seller compensation or seller help to buy that rate down. I'm just curious, what kind of if they were to see a price that reduced, or a home that reduced their price, how much of a price reduction would they actually have to see before they'd say, okay, that would offset the rate going to 7% when it was 5%? I mean, is it just too big of a jump, 2%?
Well, yeah. In fact, I was looking at this the other day, and let me give you some numbers just to kind of illustrate where I think you're going with that question. Let's say for right now, the median home price in Riverside County where we're at is $600,000. So let's assume you've got a typical 20% down transaction, loan amounts $480, at a 7% mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed for that $480,000 loan. The principal and interest payments just under $3,200 a month. So then you say, okay, how much would that home price of $600? How much would that have to drop in order for that same 80% loan to have a mortgage payment, even at the 7% rate, that would be consistent with a 1% lower rate, 6%. Well, guess what? That home price would have to be 10% lower.
Wow.
In other words, it would have to drop from 600 to 540, and then an 80% loan to 540 at 7% would get you a principal and interest payment that would be equivalent to the 6% that we had, 2 months ago. So that tells you how much you'd have to wait for the property value to fall to get that comparable 6% payment. And then it gets worse. If you're looking at, how much does that home price have to fall from 600 to get a payment at current rates that would be equivalent to a 5% rate? Well, guess what? In that case, the home price has to fall by 19%. If you want to get a mortgage payment today off of that $600,000 home list price and have the payment at today's rate equivalent to, a 4% rate, that $600,000 home would have to have a price reduction of 28%.
Wow.
Down to like $430,000. The point of all that is for those who are waiting, thinking, okay, I'm going to wait for home prices to fall. Even if you assume the worst case that rates aren't going to get any better, those kind of reductions in home prices, I don't see that happening. I mean, the current conditions don't support those kinds of doomsday drop in home values. We're just not seeing it. Again, we're in this odd market. We're a locked up market where not enough inventory. There's lots of buyers, high rates, and that has, surprisingly to some people, kept prices up. And then the problem is, again, these high rate levels aren't going to last forever. They will come down eventually. Now, it sounds like it might be longer than we thought. It may not be next, 6 to 18 months. It could be 24 to 36 months, but they will adjust back downward. And so to that extent, if you're waiting for home prices to fall substantially, I don't think that's in the cards. I think that's a bad play. If you're waiting for rates to fall, you may have to wait longer. And I would argue lower rates are going to bring out even more of that buyer demand that is going to prevent those home prices from falling when more of those sellers, those homeowners, go ahead and put their home on the market. Because again, if we have a 3-month supply now and it needs to get to 6 to have a balanced market, that means we can have a heck of a lot of homes added to the market by those sellers that if they wait and do that when rates are falling, the lower rates are going to bring in so much buyer demand. I think it's going to be a bit of a wash, and home prices are going to remain pretty stable, if not rise further. So I still think, playing the waiting game and trying to time when to buy, if you're still thinking you want to buy, I think that's hazardous. And I think you're better off trying to strategically take advantage of the current conditions, use the financing piece as part of making an offer, get into home ownership now so you can enjoy that increase in home values when rates do fall. And then when those rates do fall, you then have the opportunity to do that refi. So I think that's a better approach. And I think hopefully more and more home buyers and home sellers start thinking that way. So.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a game of Russian roulette if they're waiting. And it just reminds me of all the headlines that you've spoken about over the months. It sounds like Barbara Corcoran may be the most potentially accurate, where she said, hey, the prices are just going to go through the roof because of the conditions you've talked about. I mean, I'll end with this and I'll turn the program back over to you. Is in your years in the mortgage industry, over 4 decades, have you ever seen these conditions? It almost reminds me of that movie, The Perfect Storm, where the inventories are low, the demand is high, and the rates are where that. Have you ever seen that condition?
No, and in fact, that's a very good question, and it underscores how unusual essentially the last 3 years have been in the mortgage industry. And what I mean by that is, and what's different now versus prior cycles in the 4 decades, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and all those that I've been involved in, is the current rate levels, or the rate levels that current homeowners have, by and large. A vast majority of current homeowners have very low mortgage rates that are unprecedented in the history of the country. 2020 and 2021 were the lowest mortgage rates in the history of the country. Never seen prior to that. I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see it again. It was a special period of time, special in a bad way because of the pandemic, but that of course led to the government deciding they had to inject a huge amount of money into the economy to prop things up. And it created those very, very low mortgage rates. And so I've never seen the stock of homeowners in the country with that many, majority of them having such low existing rates. I've never seen that before. And that's a fundamental factor in the current market lockup. That's what's keeping the inventory low when you would think it would be higher, given how strong the economy is overall. There's still a lot of money out there. I think the talk of recession has cooled. The economy does seem to be pretty strong. And I think in a more normal circumstance where you didn't have, 50% of the homeowners out there with 2.5% mortgages, a lot more of those homes would be on the market because the homeowner's doing well financially. They've got good income. They want a bigger, better house. They want to list it and they want to move up. That segment of the market, that part of the process is pretty rare at the moment, and something I've never seen in over four decades. I haven't seen it.
Wow. Well, I guess we just have to be aggressive if we're a home buyer and get out there and realize, hey, we're going to know that based on what you said with those 19 points that we are going to see the rates start to come back the other direction, and to take advantage of the prices where they're at now, because I don't see a 19 or what was the other 24%?
10% reduction, 19%, 28%. I don't see those kinds of drops in home prices.
Not with the economy as strong as it is. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would need to have some sort of economic shock, like the 2008, where we had too many homeowners that didn't really qualify for their mortgages, and we had the huge default increase and a bunch of foreclosures. None of that is occurring right now. And that without that, I don't see home prices falling in a substantial way anytime soon.
Well, Art, thank you for taking the time and really diving deep into this question. I think it's something that's on the mind of many people out there, whether they're home buyers or home sellers or people thinking about buying a home. This probably helped them a lot. So I appreciate it. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching and listening. Stay tuned next week for another edition to Mortgage Minute. I'm Art Alvarez at MortgageWorks, where we have the answers and they're on the house. So long. Take care.